I'm your host, Stephen Vanover, here on the Sports Talkline Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. This is NFL Draft Talk, and today we are here to review the New England Patriots draft, and we have with us the New England Patriots reporter especial, Brian Cole from Sports Talkline. Mr. Cole, good day, sir.
Good day to you. Happy to be here.
Oh, man, and actually, I guess I didn't even really have to introduce what your specialty is with that awesome background you're sitting in front of, right?
Yeah, I have it all set up and all ready just to make it easy and show everyone, exactly who we'll be talking about.
Snap the fingers and you're looking at possibly the next year's Super Bowl winners, right?
Oh, yeah.
And let's talk about that, because in order for them to be Super Bowl winners, they have to do what the Patriots somehow always do, and that is replenish their talent. And without talent, I don't care how good you are, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. But Belichick, not only is he the best coach ever, okay, we'll argue that another way if you want, but the guy knows how to get talent. Talk to me about this draft. What's happening? First round pick up. You guys even have a first round pick. Is that legal? I don't think so. And you went wide receiver. Why and what'd you get?
Yeah, so I think this is actually one of the best and most complete drafts that the Patriots have had in a number of years. They've pulled players here and there over the past, outside of 2018 and 2019. A couple of years prior, they'd had some mixed drafts where sometimes they didn't get a lot of players and whatnot. For example, two seasons ago, they didn't have any first round picks because they traded one for Brandon Cooks and lost a second round pick and whatnot. So they have had a couple weak drafts in a row, and then last year they made a couple of big hits. And same thing with this year, they made a couple of. It's again, who knows if they'll pan out, but each and every pick that they made seems like someone who can come in and contribute, and was a good, solid pick. Especially like you mentioned, they went wide receiver round one. They went with N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State. Big body kid who just loves to go up and get the football.
How did he make it down that far to the end of the draft? I have to ask, because I was mind blown. I realized everybody was saying that this is a draft that is a weak wide receiver draft, and that there weren't any like super blue chippers, top five guys. Okay, I get that. But this kid, man, I mean, where's his weak point? Explain to me what his weak point is first.
Well, the biggest knock that a lot of people have for Harry is that he doesn't have separation speed, which basically he's not a Deshaun Jackson. He doesn't have that top gear where he's going to burn by you to make a play down the field.
Right.
But listening to a lot of scouts go over and some people who like analyze his tape, Nate Burleson was one of them. He said in the NFL that's an overrated thing to talk about, because with how good of athletes NFL cornerbacks and other defensive backs are, very few people have breakaway speed and can create, 2-3 yards of separation. So when it's important, like when every single ball is going to be contested and you're not getting that much separation anyway, the more important thing is you need a receiver who's going to go up and get it and be strong at the ball and not be afraid. And that's exactly what Harry is. He's the type of receiver who, when you throw those 50-50 balls up, he's going to get it. He's got the hands, he's got the ability, he's got the strength. He's going to fight for that football and not just, let a defender knock it away.
Okay, I'm going to throw a few things at you here, and I just want you to, give me some feedback. All right, what I'm hearing again is the contested catch, the 50-50 ball. The big comparison that they have in the NFL right now between Harry is Dez Bryant. Yes, no?
I would say yes. Dez has always been kind of a freak athlete, and I don't really remember much about his projection out of college. I didn't study him that hard, but after watching the way he played in the NFL, I'd say something similar along those lines. I don't mean to say that Harry will be as productive, or maybe he'll be more, but in terms of someone who is not beating you on pure footwork, but can run solid routes, has good speed, maybe not elite Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Jackson speed,
not that.
is able to beat a below average corner, an average corner, but just an athlete who can go get the football, and you throw at him on a slant, a fade, a comeback, things like that. He's going to grab onto that ball.
Yeah, and what you very clearly explained is called the NFL fool's gold is separation, because you think you see separation as a QB, but 2 to 3 yards of separation in the NFL is not separation, because they are baiting you. They're waiting for you to throw that ball, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It might look like there's separation the entire time, but just like a receiver has that next gear where they can speed up, so do a lot of cornerbacks. I mean, they're athletes too, and they're basically converted receivers. So a lot of these cornerbacks, they could be in coverage, and it might look like there's a yard or two of separation. As soon as the ball's released, that shrinks up no matter how fast a receiver is. So
Yeah,
at that
and
point,
the
it's
defensive
about,
guy, he doesn't have to catch the ball. All he's got to do is interrupt it.
exactly. So he doesn't have to be able to get in position. So you need a receiver who, when that cornerback catches up, is going to be able to take the ball away and secure it, instead of just letting a cornerback or even a safety slap it out of his hand.
Okay, and now this pick makes so much sense, because somehow, some way, Belichick always tries to bring a wrinkle into his offense. Okay, whether it be a wide receiver that can't really stay in the league but is available for almost nothing, and he picks him up from Cleveland. That if he makes it back, I mean, Josh Gordon, I mean, he's the bomb. So, but you look at these two guys, and they're not dissimilar, but they're not the same players, are they?
No, they're definitely. I mean, they have some similarities. They're big-bodied receivers who are going to play, who generally play on the outside and win on strength and things like that. But they're not exactly the same. Gordon is more of a downfield. Not that Harry's not a downfield threat, but again, he's not beating you over the top. Gordon played
Gordon's
a lot.
got the extra gear, doesn't he?
Yes. Well, he did. I mean, who knows again how well he
True.
trains himself. But one thing that is very similar is they're both great after the catch. They're both strong receivers. Again, I mean, Gordon is less agility, more strength, and Harry has a little bit more agility after the catch. But they're both players, when they get the ball in their hands, they can make something happen. They're not going down on first contact. They're not going down with arm tackles. Like, they are strong-bodied guys who are going to get yards down the field unless you're draped on top of them.
Yeah, and everybody's expecting, them to come back and replace Gronkowski, but I mean, you don't replace Gronkowski. And Belichick is smart enough to just say, okay, look, I'm going to take something there, and then he has the wheels with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator to make this happen. So they just went for offensive prowess, if you will, and they're just going to take it and make it happen, right?
Yeah, I think the funny thing is, and what makes me think every single year that Belichick's playing chess when everyone else is playing checkers, is that everyone else, every analyst, every
tight end.
Exactly. even me. I'm not. I was excusing myself here. Everyone's saying you got to draft a tight end. You got to find someone. And not only did he not take one in the first round, he didn't take one in the second round. He didn't take one at all. He did not pick a tight end when everyone's saying, oh, they got to find Gronkowski's replacement. Because what they said, I think what Bill sat down and said was, can we replace Gronk? Everyone around the room said, no. So he said, okay, we're just not going to, we're not going to rely on a tight end this year like we relied on Gronk. So you load up your receivers, and now you load up your running back core, which again, the Patriots got Damian Harris in the third round. So you say, hey, we'll find other ways to beat you. If you're going to expect us to use a tight end, we'll beat you with running backs and receivers.
And good luck on watching that film from the last 6 years, 8 years, 10 years. Okay, yeah, enjoy that. The guy's a genius. I'm so glad that my team is not facing his in the AFC East. But let's move on to the second pick, okay? Joanne Williams, cornerback. I mean, oh my goodness. Do you guys need more defensive backfield help?
No, actually, going into the draft, I had cornerback as one of, I think it was either the lowest or the second lowest need on the team for the Patriots, because they're bringing back all their cornerbacks from last year. And last year they had one of the best defensive back units in football, statistically. And again, they're bringing back Stephon Gilmore, who had an all-pro season, Jason McCourty, who had a fantastic season. They got some good depth players. You got J.C. Jackson, who was an undrafted rookie who played well when he went in. brought back Jonathan Jones on a restricted free agent tender. So they have a whole host of cornerbacks.
But this guy isn't just a cornerback, is he? I don't think so.
I mean, this guy has elite size. I mean, he's 6'3", 215, and he's got long arms. He is beyond the prototype for what you want at cornerback, and he has the skills to back it up. And I think
he's a wild card. He is a wild card, isn't he?
Yes, I think with his size and ability, I think you could see him at cornerback just as easily as you could see him at safety. They could consider converting him to a safety, especially playing against some of these.
Around.
Yeah,
let him match up on certain individual players. Oh, you're a guy that wins with size. Hey, guess what? You just lost.
Exactly. He's not covering Julian Edelman out of the slot, but he could cover any other big outside receiver. And when you face a team like the Chiefs with Travis Kelce, or even the Broncos now with an athletic tight end like Noah Fant, if you're facing athletic tight ends, he has the size and the strength and the physicality to cover receivers or play almost as a safety to cover those tight ends out of the box.
Well, this coach, your coach, always looks down the road, and he doesn't look down the road and just a little bit down the road. He looks at the Super Bowl. And he realizes he may very well be facing a George Kittle or who's the guy, Kelce for Kansas City. Mm-hmm. He knows he has to handle these guys. So what does he do? He goes out and gets a specialist. Him and Jimmy Johnson talk all the time. And one of the things Jimmy Johnson said is you have to look. He talked about this in the early years. He drafted Moose Johnson. And people are going like, what did you spend a high draft pick on a fullback for? He says, Lawrence Taylor's in my division.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just something he's thinking ahead. He sees, obviously, it's a passing league now, and the more cornerback depth that you can have, the more defensive back depth.
Defensive back depth. Yes.
I
mean, he's not a cornerback. This guy's a weapon, isn't he?
Yeah, you could line him up anywhere. So.
And now, of course, ultimately, you guys got to get to the quarterback, and that's always something you guys have to rotate through because, the way your defense is done, and you went out and got Chase Winovich. And this guy, I actually think this is a steal of a pick. How did he fall to you, man?
I don't know. I think a lot of teams underestimated him because when you compare him to his teammate Rashawn Gary, who's just a freak of an athlete.
True.
I mean, the kid was he has ridiculous potential, but Winovich was the real star of that Michigan defensive line. I mean,
he was the closer. He was the closer.
He was a stalwart on that defensive line. And actually, in fact, he was the only, I don't know if, I can't remember exactly if it was all of college football or maybe just the FBS, but who received a 90 grade in this season and last season as an edge defender from Pro Football Focus. And I mean, I'm a Pro Football Focus junkie. Obviously, they're very analytical, but I trust a lot of the stuff that they do. And I mean, he had a high grade. He's not a pure pass rusher. He's not going to get you 15 sacks a season, but he's someone who can get you, 8 to 10 sacks, but while also being a fantastic run defender and just edge setter. He's got the tenacity, the strength.
Play to run. Exactly. I mean, this guy's there. He's a plug-and-play piece into your defense. It just really sucks. Okay, for everybody that is in the AFC, I mean, you just don't want to see these kind of picks. And then you followed up. Again, you talked about earlier that you had defensive back as being on one of your lowest things that the team needed, okay? I think there was one position that was lower in need, and that was running back. And then what did they do in the third round?
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember. It was either cornerback or defensive back or running back that was at the lowest for me. And because you look at the team that they have, again, right now, they're still running with Rex Burkhead, Sony Michel, and James White. But then they add Damian Harris out of Alabama. And you think, well, why you drafted a running back? I think there's two main reasons. First, at that point, many had projected Harris to go towards the beginning of the third round, and this was middle to end. He was just the best player available. I think they looked at it and said, hey, he's a football player. We're going to find it. Second, I think the Patriots last year kind of struggled with running back depth, as talented as they were. I mean, there was a couple games where you had Cordell Patterson taking 25 snaps a game as a running back because they had just too many injuries. So this just adds more depth. And he's just a very high character player. That's theme without the Patriots draft picks was very high character players. Harris was a team captain. He went to Bama, came highly recommended. Even there were teachers coming, like professors coming out saying how good he was of a person and things like that. So I think that it just is bringing more of a locker room presence than anything else. Well, I mean, not taking away his talent, but he's bringing a locker room presence as well.
Well, and Ori, and you and I talked about this briefly a few weeks ago, actually. They don't have the duality, the strength at tight end right now that they are used to handling. But Belichick is anything. He is a student of the game and flexible beyond belief. Are they looking at maybe perhaps bringing back a full house backfield with this? I mean, their running back talent and depth is insane.
Yeah, they could, because now you look at, well, you could do multiple things. First, you could take a running back like Harris, he's not very shifty, but he's a big bruiser type running back.
Right.
You could bring in, again, they love their fullback sets. Just run it down opponents' throats and run into smaller linebackers that Harris is going to be able to break tackles off. Or, like you said, bring in a full house. And instead of, they might go with no tight ends at all and run with 3 running backs out there and say, hey, figure out how to cover this. Or figure out how are we running or are we throwing.
How are you going to match up? Well, let's just put this out here, see what you do, and then we're going to let Brady call a play. Ooh, my goodness. That usually works out pretty good for the Pats, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why, again, when everyone's saying the Pats need a tight end, everyone else has a tight end, everyone this, the Pats are looking and saying, we'll go with what we got. We'll see like what our best option is.
Well, as usual, the Patriots gave away a right tackle, a left tackle. I don't know how many offensive linemen you give away to the rest of the NFL a year, but you gave away a few last season as well. I think it was your right tackle?
Yes, our left tackle, Trent Brown.
Left tackle. Only your left tackle. Excuse me, nothing.
He left in free agency to go to the Oakland Raiders.
But then again, you have basically your best pick from last season, arguably, I should say, all right, who basically redshirted because of injury, and they're going to try and plug him into the tackle spot. But they got Yodny Kajuste, okay, and this kid, he's got that nasty streak that people like on the line, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. We added all these tackles, but you think last year the Patriots, again, like you just mentioned, they drafted Isaiah Wynn in the first round of last year's draft. He tore his Achilles and he sat out an entire year, so he basically redshirted. Coming back in, so you have him to help back up with the loss of Trent Brown, and then you add someone like Yodny Kajuste, who had a lot of experience in a high-powered offense, a lot of pass protecting experience.
But he has this problem, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he's a Raptor. Okay, explain what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he has an offensive lineman. He doesn't seem to know where to put his hands. He kind of dances around. He doesn't punch very well, which is huge, especially when you're an offensive lineman, especially, I mean, a tackle most importantly. When you have some fast edge defender or edge rushers, you need to get a good punch, because if you're being all wishy-washy with your hands and they get inside you, they're going to be able to rip right around you. You need to be able to use your hands and punch out and keep them away. So Kajuste has,
but also his arms are not that long for a left tackle. But he's so damn strong, he makes it work, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's athletic. He has a lot of potential as a player. I think he just needs to work on. I mean, there are obviously physical, deficiencies that you can't make up for. Like, you can't just train, but you can find other ways to improve your game. He needs to improve his technique. And improve his play strength. And if he can do that, he could he could end up playing for the Patriots next year and working in as a swing tackle and rotating potentially as a starter, depending on injuries and whatnot and how things work out.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the guy is incredible. But you guys didn't stop there. You came back in the next pick, and you got a guy, okay, I'm going to let you roll with it. I did it during the NFL draft show, and you were impressed, but we worked on this. It's your go now, okay? This is the guy. We're going to get a drum roll here. The offensive guard, what's his name? All
right. So his name is Hjalte Froholt.
Oh, perfect. Let's give him a hand, folks. He nailed it.
Thank you. He offensive guard out of Arkansas. Some people saw this as a huge steal for the Patriots. I think that it is. I think he was kind of an underrated pick. He was one of the graded again by Pro Football Focus as one of the best pass blocking interior offensive linemen in all of 2018, and that's playing in the SEC against some of the most dominant defensive lines in football and college football. He, again, some physical deficiencies where he's got short arms and his play strength has been kind of lacking, and he needs to work on his technique. But in terms of a moldable player who has time to develop, learn new technique, I mean, he doesn't. The biggest thing is he doesn't give up, and he's always grinding as hard as he can on a block. And one of the things that I read recently is his coaches all said that his biggest issue was not that they had to tell him go, was that they had to tell him, whoa, like, slow down, take a breath, relax for a second. So he has the motor and he has the commitment. It's just working on technique to overcome, being a little bit weaker, like figuring out play strength and overcoming, shorter arms.
And watch Belichick move him to the defensive line. I don't know why. He may do it.
It wouldn't surprise me.
But the next pick of the 4th round, if I may lead this up for you, we should have actually opened with this. Tom Brady's replacement. Okay. Anyhow, they drafted a quarterback. All right. Jarrett Stidham out of Auburn. Talk to me about him.
A lot. So Stidham, based after his 2017 season, he had played well enough that if he had repeated that season, he would have been a top 10 pick in the draft this year. He had an unbelievable 2017 season.
And if Grandma had what? Exactly.
I know. Well, but you get my point. My point is he took a big step back in 2018. He still has the physical tools, but he struggled with reading defenses. He got way too skittish in blitz pickup and different things. Some of it was his fault, where he just seemed to lose some confidence in himself and couldn't figure it out. Some of it was being in a bad fit schematically at Auburn. But he was, I mean, he had second round talent, but just couldn't manage to continue to progress between 2017 and 2018, which is why he fell to the Patriots in the 4th round. And is it necessarily Brady's successor? I mean, yes and no.
Come on. This is being recorded. You know this. Okay.
It's tough.
Make the call. Yes, no.
It all depends, because next year's supposed to be this great quarterback draft and everything, and they could wait and take one in the 1st round next year. Who knows? But I think to take this kid in the 4th round, they got to have some sort of confidence in him. Maybe you look at him for a year, and if after a year they say, "Oh, well, he's really not that good," let's.
And now, come on, hold on. They have more confidence in him than they had in Brady.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you Brady in the 5th, right?
Sixth,
199. Oh, then I mean, come on.
But no,
this guy's got to be better, right?
But I think this kid is the thing. The problem is whenever you say Tom Brady's heir is going to be bad, considering you're comparing him to the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. No matter what
Johnny
you
Unitas
do.
fan. Excuse me. I have Johnny Unitas' heir on the phone right now. Okay, go ahead.
No matter what you do after Tom Brady, it doesn't matter. You could have brought in Baker Mayfield and started him day one. Baker is going to be great, whatever. He's not Tom Brady.
Danny White.
It's just not.
Danny White. Do you know who Danny White is?
Like,
Exactly. You don't know. He's the guy that followed Roger Staubach. You don't want to be that guy, okay? He was a very good quarterback. Very good quarterback, okay. You don't want to be that guy. I agree. However, here's my take on the guy, and I hate to give a positive spin on another Patriots draft pick, but I got to. I think it's a guy that you almost throw out this season because he was a guy who was thinking instead of playing. I think the scheme and what they were trying to ask him to do, it was totally different from what he'd done before. Why do that? I don't know. Okay, but he was, and it didn't work that well for him. Okay, and he had his issues, and you have to look at that. But you can't take away the year that he had. You can't take away that year. That's the year you look at. You look at that and go like, can I work with that player? And of course, Josh Daniels looked at him and went like, okay. But then again, Josh Daniels also went with Tebow. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt. Okay.
Exactly.
But overall, man, he got drafted by Bill Belichick. That adds a plus in the column. So is he the next guy? Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to go with you on that. All right. The next guy is defensive tackle Byron Cowart. And you guys need as much help there as you can get, right?
Yeah, defensive tackle is a big need for New England coming in the season. They kind of let Malcolm Brown go, who was their former first-round pick. Danny Shaw, still a free agent. They could always bring him back, but they kind of let him go again, who was a former first-round pick from the Browns. Right. They're just kind of thin at the position right now. When I was expecting them to address the position earlier in the draft. Yeah, Byron Cowart was he was a 5-star recruit out of high school. Had a lot of potential. He's got a big body. He went to Auburn, I believe it was, and was there for a couple seasons. Didn't end up scratching the playing field really at all, and ended up transferring to Maryland for his senior season. Had decent production. I mean, didn't play bad. It was obviously less competition and whatnot, but I think at this point in the 5th round, he's more of a developmental piece where he still has the physical traits. He's a big body. He's athletic. He's long. I mean, he knows he can rush the passer up the middle with decent proficiency, and again, he can stop the run. He needs a lot of technical work, and I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar. But I think with maybe some development, he has the physicality, he has the physical tools needed to play the position. And
you guys needed help. You guys needed help. You got some help. We'll find out how good he is. But I want to talk about your other 5th round pick. This is an exciting pick for me because you still haven't drafted a tight end, but you trade up. There's a trade here, actually. There's a trade. New England traded up with Philadelphia. You're not smiling, Brian. You're not smiling. I don't get this. Okay, and you draft the next punter for the New England Patriots, Jacob Bailey. I mean, you got to be excited about this pick, right?
This is ridiculous. I don't even want it. Honestly, after when they talked to Nick Caserio, who's the Patriots director of player personnel, he's sort of the GM right next to Bill,
right.
And he basically admitted that they made they traded up, not necessarily because they coveted Bailey beyond belief, but they
were done. They were done.
They had 3 7th-round picks, and they just didn't want to use all of them. They were like, this is just a waste of time. So they used a 7th-round pick to trade up, I think, 4 spots in the 5th round.
And take a 7th-round guy.
Yeah, to grab Bailey. But they looked at it, they were like, honestly, we don't want to have to. We've already taken, a number of guys. We don't want to have to draft another guy in the 7th round who's just going to be useless. We want Bailey. We're going to take him in 4 picks. Let's just take him now to get it over with. And let's get rid of this pick so we don't have to take it later.
And regardless of when they took him, there seems to be a reason because Belichick has been known. I mean, basically, there's been left-footed punters for him since he did the thing where decided that the wind currents there favored left-footed kickers. But this guy is a right-footed kicker, but he can also kick off. And how does that work out for you guys?
Yeah, I think, you see, again, Belichick loves his left-footed punters. The ball curves off the foot different and stuff, but I think he went with a different guy here in this Jake Bailey. Kid was solid at Stanford. He was the number 2 ranked punting prospect in the draft, so he's got some talent. He'll give Ryan Allen, the Patriots signed Ryan Allen to a 1-year deal, so who knows, maybe if they like this Bailey kid better in camp, they just go with him instead of Allen. But like you said, he's shown the ability to kick off, which is obviously not the same as kicking a field goal. No. You don't need as accurate, but if you got power in your leg, you've seen it a lot in the NFL. The Colts are one of the biggest examples where they'll have a kicker or their punter is kicking kickoffs because he can boot the ball down the field, while Adam Vinatieri is kicking the field goals because he has the accuracy. They could transition into something similar where they have Bailey doing kickoffs to save Stephen Gostkowski, so that he can just focus on field goals.
Okay, but now the other thing that the Colts kicker has to do is he has to carry around, the bag with the HGH to follow Vinatieri around. What is he, 85?
At least. No, it's crazy. He's 45. He looks like his age, and just still I'm good. I just like kicking the football,
Incredible. What a great guy for both teams. You and them. All right, man. I realized that was your most favorite pick, but they actually still had to squeak out one more, and they went with your other position of need, right? Defensive back.
Yeah, they went with Ken Webster out of Mississippi. Again, that's more similarly last year in the 7th round. They picked up Keon Crossan. Just an athletic. The kid Crossen was just an athletic freak and just made a huge impact on the Patriots on special teams. He only had very, very limited time actually playing cornerback, but a kid who just competed, had again some elite numbers athletically, like at the combine and stuff. And the kid that they drafted again last year with Crossen, just to say, hey, you know what? Maybe you can come in and make an impact on special teams or something. We'll see. You're an athlete, and I think Kendarius Webster's the same thing. I think they're like, hey, you've shown stuff on tape. You got talent. You got athletic ability. Maybe you can come in and find a spot on special teams. Well, you never know. Take a flyer on him and just see how he works out.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, they were already done with the draft. Okay,
yes.
They were done. But basically, this is a classic pick for them because they go for a position, not a need, but he knows that defensive back, hey, it's a passing league. You can't have enough of those guys, can you?
No, exactly. I mean, and again, Crossen is someone who is still, like, from last year, he was still developing last year his skills immensely. Like, he had athletic features, but didn't really have great coverage skills. Yet he found himself at points in the two Chiefs games early in the season and then in the AFC Championship game covering Tyreek Hill. Not necessarily because he had the coverage skills, but because the Patriots were double teaming him and they're saying, hey, we're going to put our fastest, most athletic guy on Hill with safety help over the top. And because we picked one of the fastest guys in the draft in 2018, we're just going to take him and say, hey, you're going to cover him. And figure out what you could do. And it could be the same, something similar with Webster, where it's like, hey, maybe we can figure out if you are in a spot, then you'll find yourself in that position where it's like, hey, we need an athlete. We don't need the best cornerback, the best receiver. We need an athlete right now who's going to be able to make a play. And that's what he could be.
Yeah, and actually I can see Belichick stashing a guy on the freaking scout team, all right, that he calls up right before the playoffs to use against a team on one guy. That's Belichick.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's something he would do. Whereas if he sees something in Webster over the offseason, over the regular next couple, mini camps and things like that, and then when you get to training camp, who knows? Again, you stash him in the practice squad and bring him up when you need to. Okay,
so basically, in New England, drafts are graded differently. They're based on Lombardis. Okay, how do you rate this draft? 1 Lombardi, 2 Lombardi, 3 Lombardi. What's your rating on this draft?
Honestly, again, looking at it compared to some of the Patriots' recent drafts, which weren't necessarily bad players, but just limited players. Again, a couple of years ago, they only drafted 4 players.
Filling holes.
Yeah, things like that. This is one of their most impressive drafts in a long time because they didn't fill holes like they always do, and there were definitely positions of need that they didn't fill. They needed more defensive tackle help.
If I may, Brian, to me, this draft was different because, like you said, other drafts, they were trying to reload the mechanism, keep it running. Here, I feel they made moves.
Yeah, I think, like you said, or like you like to talk about, is how Bill is always looking around the league and seeing trends and seeing different things and doing stuff to accommodate those trends. I think that's what this draft was, is looking at some of these players and saying, hey, look at this long athletic corner. Look at this powerhouse running back. Look at some of these good tackles and offensive linemen. How can we utilize these players in a new changing league? And I think that's where they made these picks. And I think the one thing with a lot of these picks is they're all high character players, which I think the Patriots are looking, hey, you know what? We have a lot of great players right now who are getting old, and we want people who can keep this culture and this strong attitude when they're retired and when these players are out in a few years. Again, you have Brady, Edelman, Devin McCourty, Dante Hightower, all these players who
so Brady's replacement is on the roster, is what you're saying.
Eventually. I could be talking 15 years, but it's coming eventually.
Trying to nail you down. Okay, no luck so far,
yeah.
But I'm trying.
But no, I think it's high character players that, again, didn't fill every single need, but are high character, highly talented players who are going to fill a need somewhere and are going to be able to contribute day one and not just sit or not just be forced into a role like a tight end would be.
All right. Well, it's a New England Patriots draft run by Bill Belichick. arguably, and of course to some people, not even arguably, the best coach in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
And hey, he's up there. Thank you so much for being on, Brian. Before you go, if you could tell people how to find you on social media and about what you're running for Sports Talkline and how you're covering the team.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at @the_Cole. You'll find me writing at Pro Football Talkline. Over the next couple weeks to months, we're just going to be exploring different things with the Patriots roster, seeing how, they're making small transactions here and there and breaking down position by position to see how they look heading into training camp, which starts a couple months. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. We're almost there.
Oh, dude, so close, so close. Well, Brian, as always, a total pleasure. Thank you so much for your work and for being here today. And for everyone out there, please come on, follow us at Sports Talkline. You can find us out there. We are there. Heck, you're watching this. You know we're there. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please give us that subscribe and hit that little bell for that notify thing. And on Facebook, hey, you know what to do. And please pass us out, give the word out. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Till next time, listen like you play with intensity.